So in today's lesson, we're going to continue to solve trigonometric equations. So we're going to start by solving 7 and 8 here and 9 here in a second, 10. But before we do that, part of what we're going to do is we're going to take just a couple notes here. And right at the bottom of your page, I want you to draw this. We have learned this before, but you maybe don't remember all those pieces, so we're just going to kind of bring it back to your memory. But if I were to, you don't have to write this part down, we'll just use this as a visual. If I were to draw the unit circle, this coordinate would be 1, 0. What would this coordinate be here? 0, 1, and this would be -1, 0, and this would be 0, -1. So do you remember if sine is the x value or the y value? It's the y value. So sine is equal to 0 right there because the y value is 0. So what's sine equal to right here? 1. What's sine equal to here? 0. And what's sine equal to down here? And remember that sine is positive here, negative here, negative here. And we'll use this today as we do our work. Cosine is cosine the x value or the y value? X. So right here, cosine is 1. Here it's 0. It's the x value. Here it's -1. And down here it's 0. Remember, cosine is positive, negative, negative, positive. In tangent, we take x or y and divide it by x, right? So if you take y and divide it by x, if we do 0 divided by 1, what do you get? What's 0 divided by 1? 0. But up here, you take 1 and divide it by 0. What happens when we get 0 in the denominator? Undefined. And over here, you take 0 divided by -1, you get 0. -1 divided by 0 is, again, undefined. And we're in that tangent is positive here, negative here, positive here, negative here. So yesterday, you should have come up with one result in your assignment that said tangent of theta is equal to 0. Like, boy, what do I do with 0? Well, you could just look at this chart. Where's tangent equal to 0? How many degrees? 0, 180, and 360. All three of them. Okay. So part of what Max was seeing is that if this is 0, then this becomes 90. So remember when we kind of mixed up that compass thing, right? We're doing our compass bearing stuff, and then now we're back to the XY coordinate thing. So we want to stay back on this coordinate plane, and but we get mixed up there sometimes. Right, so here's the other piece, okay? Think about the sine and cosine graph. What's the biggest value that sine can be? 1. What's the smallest value sine can be? Would you agree that's the same for cosine? So if you end up with, say, sine of theta is equal to 3/5, is 3/5 smaller than 1? So you can find a solution. But say you end up with sine of theta is equal to 5/3. Can sine be bigger than 1? So there's no solution. So if you get sine or cosine is bigger than 1, no luck. No luck. Let's try a couple examples today. What's different about number 7 compared to what we saw before? It's squared. Okay. As you see this squared, I'm going to solve it just like we did before. I'm going to add 2. I get sine squared of x is equal to what? 1. Now what do I do to both sides? Square root it. I get sine of x is equal to, how many solutions should I list, being it was squared? I should list 2 solutions. So I have plus or minus 1. Anytime you come up with 0 or 1, what you should really do is you should go to this chart. Look at sine. Where is sine equal to positive 1? How many degrees? 90. And negative 1 would be 270. So your answer here is x equals 90 degrees and 270 degrees. Nope, that's fine. If you do number 8, I subtract 3 from both sides. I get cosine squared of x is equal to 0. What do I do to both sides? Square root. I get cosine of x is equal to, there's only one way to write 0. You can't write plus or minus. Look at your cosine chart that we made down here. Where is cosine equal to 0? 90 and 270, same places. When we plug it into the calculator, we just get kind of an odd answer here. So if I go, let's see, first of all, I'm working degrees, good. So I go cosine inverse of 0, and you do get 90. But the idea is, can you figure out that it's also 270? And you can't really figure that out without drawing the graph. Okay. All right. Let's move to a little bit different one. Okay. We got number 9. What should I do first? Subtract 1, so I have 4 tangent squared of x is equal to 8. Now what? Divide by 4, so tangent squared of x is equal to 2. Square root both sides. Tangent of x is equal to, I have to list both solutions. So I have to list plus or minus. Square root of 2. Well, that's different. I didn't come out with 1 or 0, right? This is similar to the problem we had yesterday. Except the problem we had yesterday, instead of being plus or minus, it was just one or the other, correct? Well, now we have to account for both the plus and the minus. In which quadrants is tangent positive? In which quadrants is tangent negative? So how many solutions are we going to have? You're going to have 4 in this case. So you can't really predict ahead of time exactly how many solutions you're going to have. But a lot of times if you see a squared, you are going to come up with, say, 4 solutions. So I'm going to tangent inverse the square root of 2. And I get 54.74. I always draw my reference angle between the terminal side of the angle and the x-axis. My first answer is obviously 54.74 degrees. How do I find my second answer? Yep, 180 minus that amount, and I get 125.26 degrees. If I take 180 plus 54.735, I get 234. 0.74 degrees. And how would I wrote as a percent, I'm sorry. Yep, and then I would do 360 minus. Thank you. 305.26 degrees. So those are my 4 solutions. Any questions on that example? Okay, we move to this one, then we'll move to your worksheet. What do I do for number 10? Subtract 1. Secant squared of x is equal to 3 secant squared is equal to 6. Divide by 3. Secant squared of x is equal to 2. Do I have a secant button on my calculator? I don't. Doesn't matter. You can do either or. So change it to what, Luke? And change secant to cosine squared of x is equal to 1/2. Square root both sides. Cosine of x is equal to, and you have to write it as plus or minus because you took the square root of a squared, plus or minus the square root of 1/2. And some people may say, well, you have to rationalize the denominator. Don't worry about that because you're not leaving this as your final answer. So I'm going to go to my calculator in just a second because I'm going to first set up my quadrants. This says cosine is plus or minus. Which quadrant says cosine positive? First and fourth, so it's negative in the second and third. Okay. No. If you, plus or minus the square root of something, it could be no solution. If instead of getting a 1/2, if you had a 2/1, cosine can't be square root 2. So most of the time. Okay. All right. So now we cosine inverse the square root of 1 divided by 2. And we should get 45 degrees. And we do. So what's my first angle? Second angle, I'll take 180 minus 45. Anybody know what that is? 180 plus 45. And 360 minus 45, 315. So not too much different, is it? I'm going to hand you your worksheet. We're going to do about 4 problems together, and we'll let you kind of work on your own then, okay? Okay, let's see where you got, okay? Number 1, you should add 3. Everybody can do that. If you're not trying hard enough. 2 sine squared of theta is equal to 1, and you divide by 2. Everybody can do that. If you don't, you're not trying hard enough. Everybody can also square root both sides. So you get sine of theta is equal to, now sometimes people don't remember to put plus or minus. You got to get in the habit of that. And you have the square root of 1/2. So I try to list where is sine positive. 1 and 2. Where is it negative? 3 and 4. Okay. Now, I think, Luke, your point was that if you see plus or minus, just draw all 4 quadrants, right? And my point is this, is that some of you still don't know how to figure out where sine, cosine, and tangent are positive and negative. I don't know how to fix that for you unless you try to think about it every time. But you got to get through that hurdle. All students take calculus. You got to get through that somehow. So anyway, I inverse 1 to the square root of 1/2, and you should get 30 degrees. So once you get to here, sine of theta equals that, you just go to your calculator, and you press second sine of the square root of 1 divided by 2. If you don't have a calculator like I do, then we gotta figure out how to do that. Just make this into a decimal over here. So if I go square root of 1 divided by 2, or on your calculator, let's say you did square root of 0.5, you're going to get 0.7071. So you would then sine inverse that, and you're going to get 45. What? Oh, sorry. Did I do this right? Oh, I wrote 30. It's 45. Sine is equal to 1/2 at 30 degrees. My bad. Sorry about that. We got 45, 45, 45, and 45. Sorry about that. So theta is equal to 45 degrees, and 135 degrees, and 225 degrees, and 315 degrees. Now, if you notice in this example, I haven't given you all problems that are squared. Some of these are not squared. For example, flip it over. Let's try one that's similar to what we did yesterday. Okay. What about like number 10? That's not squared. How do I solve it? What do I do to both sides? Yep, subtract the 4. I get -5. Secant of theta is equal to 6. Now what do you do to both sides? Divide by -5. Secant of theta is equal to -6/5. Uh-oh, I don't have a secant button on my calculator. So, reciprocal. So cosine of theta is equal to -5/6. Again, the point why I brought it up earlier, we got to try to figure out where cosine, we can't simply just draw 4 marks. You got to think about where cosine is positive, where it's negative. In which quadrants is cosine positive? 1 and 4, so it's negative in 2 and 3. Once you figure out the quadrants, all you got to do is cosine inverse. Should I include the negative when I inverse? No, I already used up the negative when I determine the quadrants. I get 33.56. So I add 33.56 to 180, and I subtract 33.56 from 180. You should get 146.44 and 213.56. Not too different, right? But you're doing squareds. You have 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I did 2 problems for you. You just got 10 problems left. Or is 14 on this page? Right, so you have 10 left, right? Because I did 2 for you. 12 minutes left, sorry. So, do it.